Hello and welcome to Outcomes for Me Perspectives. This is a video series of 15-minute conversations with experts, advocates, and patients on the latest topics in the breast cancer community. Today, I am joined by BlaineKifle. She is an oncology nurse and a patient advocate. Welcome, Blaine.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. I was hoping you could start us off just by introducing yourself, maybe giving us a little bit of your background, your story, why you became interested in a career in oncology.
Yeah, so I've been in healthcare for a little over 20 years. In my time, I have said the words, I would never be a nurse and I would never do oncology. But life never works out the way you think. My father was diagnosed with stomach cancer and he died within a month to the day of his diagnosis. And cancer has been a pretty consistent theme through my family. My mother also died of cancer. I have a brother who's a cancer survivor and one who's currently being treated. So that really drove my passion to helping people. And once I had a taste of what it's like to be on that side of the bed with cancer, I knew that I could be helpful on the other side as well. So I became an oncology nurse a little over 10 years ago, and I've done a variety of things. I've done everything from bone marrow transplant ICU to transfusion medicine in the clinic, and currently am really focused on education and technology and how technology impacts healthcare.
Okay, thank you for sharing that with us. So you obviously have such a heart for this community. So outside of your professional experience, why did you decide to concentrate or dedicate your time to patient advocacy? What gaps maybe did you find in the oncology space that you wanted to address?
Yeah, so one of the great things about having a diverse experience, so 20 years, but 10 years on the administrative, everything from admin support to, outside of direct healthcare, really gave me an idea of how the system works. And then on the flip side, watching my, loved ones struggle through their own care, regardless of whether they were well educated or, had good resources, just really brought home the fact that our system is very difficult to navigate.
Mm-hmm.
So my real hope is to give people the insights and information that I've gleaned over 20 years to help empower them to better be able to manage their care, and really help them find the ways to get the best outcomes for themselves.
Okay. So are there any specific projects that you're working on right now for the community?
Yeah, so I outside of being, the contact person for friends and family and friends of friends,
Sure.
I've decided to take that information that I've been sharing for years and building a blog and a video log called the Smarty Pants Cancer Nurse, my sister-in-law. Thank you for that name. And we will be posting the first video here shortly. And it's just a series of, vignette videos and blog posts on specific parts of how to navigate and to, call attention to or give you definitions even for terminology that medical professionals tend to throw around without thinking. Just really hoping to get the information out in a way that's a little bit funny and less stressful, but also a good resource for patients who are, or caregivers who are trying to learn the system, because, you're not going to learn the medicine, obviously, as a professional would, but you can have better idea of how to manage the system for yourself.
That is so fantastic and such an unmet need. And kudos to your sister-in-law. That is such a cute name. But in all seriousness, that's absolutely right. And as you mentioned, you may have had very well educated family members or or friends that when they're thrown into this unfortunate place of having to deal and navigate a cancer diagnosis, it's a completely new language and it can be so overwhelming and so intimidating. So making that more attainable and friendly to the average person is so fantastic. So I cannot wait to see can't wait to see the new video. So please keep us up to date on that as that progresses. So I guess as you have developed your own deliverables in this advocacy space, you're using technology. Why do you think why did you decide on that? Why do you believe that to be the appropriate medium?
You know, there's one of the things that so my graduate work is actually in health informatics. I have a master's degree from University of Washington, the School of Public Health. And one of the things that we would talk about is the fact that in most industries, technology is disruptive and improves the work. It streamlines something, it makes it more efficient. In medicine, technology is helpful and also difficult. It's sometimes difficult to manage the technology itself, and our system is very fragmented in this country. So one of the things I like to say is, if I can shop on the internet and then be followed by the same pair of shoes to every other website I go to, I really think that health technology can work a little bit better too. And we all have it, we all have many computers in our pockets or in our purse. And, the further we go, the fewer and further between we are with people who don't understand technology. So making it work for us is the hard part. But it's doable. I have faith that, as people develop and really focus on the patient experience, that we'll get something that will translate to the clinical experience too, hopefully.
Yes, that's wonderful. And it's one of the objectives that we are trying to achieve with our efforts at Outcomes for Me too, is that using technology to democratize the optimal experience that that maybe not every cancer patient has access to, simply because of where they live or the medical system that they're able to access for their care.
That's actually a huge piece for why Smarty Pants came up, and why I'm out there doing what I do, which is the number of times someone in my life has said, "Thank God we have you. I don't know what we would have done to figure this out without you," is just, it's flattering, but it's incredibly unfair. I'm happy to be of service, but I wish you didn't need me. I wish no one needed me to pass on this information. But until, we get that better, that's the piece that matters the most. Democratizing is a beautiful word for, I think, what we're trying to do on our side too.
Okay, fantastic. And you, by putting yourself out there in this vulnerable and brave way, you're offering yourself up to so many more people outside of just your close community. So thank you for that. Have you used the Outcomes for Me app as an oncology nurse? Have you played around with it? Do you have an opinion on its usefulness for patients?
Yeah, so I actually met your group from Outcomes for Me at the Oncology Nursing Society Congress, which is our big annual conference. And it caught my attention pretty much right away because it's an interesting premise. And what I really liked about it, of course, I play with anything that's an app that's patient related, because you never know when someone is going to need it. And what I did appreciate about it very much was, very often when you have a new diagnosis, especially, it's a fire hose of information. There's just so much, especially if you're on the internet. I have this great graphic that I use about WebMD, essentially, where it doesn't matter what question you put in, the end result is cancer, because that's the way the internet works.
Yes.
So I think what I really appreciated about Outcomes for Me was the fact that the information was targeted, that, there were a series of questions at the beginning to set up your profile that really established where you are in treatment. Are you newly diagnosed? Are you HER2 positive? What markers do you have? And then it wasn't, trying to sift through that yourself, because very often you don't know what you don't know. So you don't know what questions that you should have been asking to get to that information. So having those questions presented to you really gives you the opportunity to get the most targeted, direct information. So I really appreciated that piece. I would say that the research piece of it is also really important. There are a lot of folks who don't even consider research. No one, I don't want to be guinea pig, or, don't really even think about it at first, second, or third, as I like to say. So having that at the forefront instead of as a last resort, I think is really important to kind of get it out there to people's in their attention span, in their a sort of treatment picture. And clinicaltrials.gov is a fantastic website in a lot of ways. It's incredibly difficult to navigate if you don't know what you're looking for. And this really, your app was able to target the studies that were in my area when I, set myself up as a pretend patient that, my diagnostic criteria met. So it did a lot of that filtering without me having to, try to figure out that website. So I do appreciate that quite a bit.
Yes, that's great. And I love what you said about clinical trials not just being a last resort, despite that being a common misconception amongst oncology patients. And so that is one of the things that we are trying to change, so that patients understand that there are thousands of clinical trials out there, and that there very possibly could be one that is an appropriate fit earlier in their treatment journey, and matching to those sometimes is very advantageous to patients. So
yeah, I think one of the things that I tell people in my life when it comes up is, we don't have a cure to cancer. Mm-hmm. And if we do, if there's one out there, that's because it's being studied right now. So your best chance is very often a research study in some ways, especially if you're talking, understanding the phases, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. I mean, by the time it's been to phase 3, they've already done 2 phases where they've established that it does work to some extent. Does it work well enough to be approved is the question. But you're only adding to your treatment. You're not taking anything away. And the sooner you can do that, the better. The reality for most treatment is that it's hard on your body. So the more chemo you have, the more immunotherapy you have, the more your body's been exposed to, the more difficult treatment following that is going to be. So, if you're at the strongest, healthiest part where you're just starting, it's a good time to think about taking on something like that, I think.
Yes. And there's been a lot of conversation lately at the conferences, and when new research is coming out about the de-escalation of some of those very toxic treatments in favor of precision medicine as being able to target an individual's cancer in a very specific way, based off of their own genetic makeup and the genomic makeup of their individual tumors, which is a fantastic thing and an exciting part of clinical trials right now, too, in my opinion.
I agree. I think that's that, and the repurposing of older drugs based on genetic testing, which I think that's another thing that often comes out of clinical trials, is a push for better genetic testing as part of that process. But being able to open old drugs up to new diagnoses that match those profiles, I think is really, it's cool. It's waste not, want not. It's sort of like recycling,
Yes. Yes. No, very well said. It is an exciting time in oncology right now. So Blaine, really appreciate your time that you spent with us here today. Please keep us updated on Smarty Pants oncology nurse, right?
The Smarty Pants cancer nurse, yes.
Smarty Pants cancer nurse, yes, even better, even better. We'll be watching for that, and just appreciate the time that you spent with us today. Thank you very much.
I really appreciate the opportunity to share my thoughts, and I appreciate the work that you guys are doing too, because I think technology like this puts more power in the patient's hands, and it's definitely needed. It's definitely needed out there. So thank you.
Well, a compliment like that means so much coming from someone like you. So we'll talk again very soon. Thanks.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.